is it?
50.
60.
You had that kid when you were 12. I had a pen in my hand.
Yeah, you want to, excuse me, just come here, see? You ran.
What's that? No, that's not true. They're just free. It's one of the few things you get free.
What was the question? The answer was 270. Soft costs.
All right, so we now have a quorum, right?
This was my estimate on additional things, this one was projected, they're looking at these numbers too. This is what we've already based.
Morning.
Based on costs through September 30th. We can go over that this morning. But these are the additional ones. So they had, I send them every month.
You guys ready to roll?
Updated schedule for this, so they can put them in virtual.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let's call the Finance Administration Committee meeting to order. Roll call, Melissa.
Keith Stern will be absent, Tom Moll will be absent, Steve Brunner,
Here.
John Gallen,
Here.
and Dave Racer.
Here.
Public comment.
Yeah, I have, I am not seeing on the agenda what happened with the trash, but, again, trying to speak against this, which is not a fee anymore. It's a flat tax, and like any other flat tax, it hits disproportionately, lower income households. It also does not take in consideration the size of the household. I think that, for example, there's a lot of discussion that can be done here, but if we would pay for the trash through taxes, at least we would consider the size of the household or the property. Obviously, a larger property puts out more leaves, more yard waste. A larger property puts out more trash. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion, but definitely hitting people with 555 per year households, smaller households, for which this is a serious amount of money. So I don't think this is a way to approach it. It's gone way too high. There is also a discussion about why did it go too high, but I think that we need to look at these in a different manner. We have to just consider it differently in a way that it's more fair, and we don't have poor people subsidizing rich people. This is exactly what's going on right now, and it's not correct. It's not right. I think we can do better than this. Again, there is no perfect way, but just like any other utility, it can be metered. We can put bags, pay for bags. I mean, there are many ways to deal with trash, but I think this is the worst of all. So again, and I will just pitch in that I'm against raising the water fee. No, it's not a fee. This is a rate. So I understand that your narrative is that you're passing on the rate, the charges. However, I don't think, from what I have seen, and I've been in all of these meetings, I don't think we're holding our contractors accountable, just like we didn't do with Mascara. We don't know what Mascara does for that money. We simply don't know. Other than picking up the trash. What happens after that, we don't know. The same thing here with the water. I have not seen reports, I have not seen comprehensive analysis as to why are we paying for this money, for this rate. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'd like to comment. Number one, on that matter, there are a lot of services that are not prorated based on the size of the household in the borough. Police and fire being two of them. I would just like to announce that decided that by time one finance committee has come to an end, and 16 years and well over 250 meetings. But I would like to thank the council for having me serve for all that time, and especially want to thank Phyllis for your professionalism and expertise at guiding the council and the committee for all those years. years, you were here when I got here, just arrived, I think. And I think everything that the committee has done has been in the interest of the borough and the taxpayers. And I think it's being left in good hands. And I served that group pleasure. So,
Thanks for your time.
yes.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Been
Shame
invaluable.
you're leaving, though, why not, personally, because you have a depth of knowledge which I think we could use right now.
Please call me if you need me. No, I just wanted to bring that up in the beginning of the meeting, so it doesn't need to be discussed further.
Thanks for all your contributions.
Like I said to John last night, phone, said, we've now lost 2 vital people, and we gained 1 back. Okay, but it's, the wealth of knowledge that you have about this borough and all the different, moving parts to it, which we all know there's a lot. You boys made to bring everything in a professional way. It doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you, John, very much.
It's particularly too bad because there had been a proposal to increase the number of people on this committee and increase the number of people who are residents. And to the extent that there's a deficit in council, that would have allowed us to fill with folks like you, and since that's been withdrawn, we do not have that opportunity today. But your participation shows the value that residents bring, and we very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry you're not continuing.
Okay, I'll do some public comment. John, I'd like to thank you personally. I know when I decided to run for council 8 years ago, you were probably lukewarm on me. I don't think we got a little better from that point on. But at the end of the day, what you bring to the table was invaluable, and will today too. And I promise you, we won't forget about every time that you bring up the pension. You will be thought of and mentioned, I'm sure, at every meeting.
And the reserves.
And the reserves. I would also like to say in public meetings that a previous speaker has mentioned about trash and how it's the wealthy people aren't paying or the larger properties aren't paying. I will also mention that many of those larger properties don't have any trash the 6 months or 7 months during the winter when they're not here, and they're still paying the same rate as someone who is. So, okay, moving on. Any other public comment? Okay, moving on. Cash update, Phyllis.
Right, at the end of November, cash and investments totaled $10,328,000. Pending reimbursements remain for the Green Light Go program. I'm still hopeful that that will be received before the end of the calendar year. We do know, however, that reimbursement for the police computer equipment will not occur until that program is up and running later in 2024. Interest rates remain the same at Tompkins. The PLGIT rates have inched up marginally.
Good.
During November, 3 terms matured at PLGIT, totaling $3 million and yielding $81,000 in interest. Those 3 terms were invested in the PLGIT Prime at 5.55%. So the PLGIT balance currently is $9,499,000. During December, 5 terms are set to mature. The first 2 matured on Tuesday and Wednesday, are currently sitting in the class account waiting direction. An additional $1 million will be maturing on Friday, and the final term will be maturing on December 19th. At this time, we have adequate cash in the class account that will carry us through the beginning of January. We will continue to redeem from PLGIT as operations required during January and February until the March tax receipts begin. At this time, I think for the 4 terms maturing in December, we will be safe and moving them to the highest rate of prime at 5.55. The term rates, if we were to lock in are all actually under that. The risk being that if interest rates were to fall during '24, we won't have anything locked in at the higher rate. So we would continue to monitor those rates unless someone has a better crystal ball than I.
How frequently, Phyllis, do they reset that prime rate?
Every Monday,
Those are weekly?
it is a weekly adjustment. Those rates are as of this past
And we
Monday.
have access to those dollars.
I have unlimited access to what's sitting in class. I can do that as often as needed. Thus far, during the current calendar year, I've redeemed $850,000 for operations as needed. The PLGIT Prime account, I'm restricted to 2 accesses, 2 redemptions per month, so that will require some additional planning if I see a shortfall with payment apps and so forth. So I do have an opportunity to move money from Prime to class, but just 2 times each month.
Okay.
And that net interest is on this year?
That net interest is this year. So this year, interest expense incurred for October and November totals $1,075 on the existing note balance of $262,000. So action is needed for the 4 terms that, 2 of which already matured, 1 on Friday and 1 on the 19th. My suggestion is that we move it to the PLGIT Prime account at the highest rate until needed.
Okay. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Make that motion.
We need to do them all separately, Chris. Okay, so there's a motion on the table.
Second.
Thank you. To flip the PLGIT terms that are coming due, or have come due already in December, to the PLGIT Prime account. And it's just over, it's $4,065,157.53.
I use the principal for investment and I use the interest for operations.
Okay,
Right,
so it'd be
so
just
it's
for the
$4
$4 million.
million.
Okay, agreed upon with that, you too?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
As far as interest totals, with 1 month remaining and the 4 that are maturing this month, projected interest is to total $655,000, which will provide a positive variance of $538,000.
That's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, too, but our pensions did do the same damn thing.
Yeah, that's about our only positive variance in revenue we have gotten.
All right.
$1 million.
All right, there is
Once
very,
you spend down the reserve, you don't have the opportunity to earn that.
Correct.
You're gonna miss making those comments.
It's true.
few transactions of note for the month of November, in addition to the PLGIT maturity interest, net real estate taxes totaled just $28,000, other local taxes $169,000. Year-to-date revenues totaled $21,346,000, the positive variance compared to prior year, as well as the year-to-date budget. 3 primary transactions are driving that, in addition to the positive variance on the PLGIT interest. You may recall that we received a contribution from Highlands towards the sewer. That was $300,000. On the expense side, the only transaction of note was the final payment on the street work for $63,000. Also of note, November is one of 2 months during the calendar year where there's actually 3 payrolls rather than 2. Year-to-date expenses totaled $22,367,000, $3 million more than the prior year, primarily due to the completion of more projects during the current year, things that were deferred from the prior year. Also a positive variance versus our budget. On a net basis for November, expenditures did exceed revenues by $1,096,000, creating a year-to-date deficit of $1,020,000. That is more than what we were experiencing last year, where we had not completed our capital projects, and a positive variance when compared to the budget. When that $1,020,000 deficit is added to beginning of the year fund balance, Our overall fund balance at the end of November totaled $10,965,000, 2.2 of which is reserved, leaving an unreserved fund balance of $8,697,000. With the addition of the pending grant reimbursements and open permit fees of $15,000, our unreserved fund balance, including the pending items, total $8,956,000. Already included in fund balance are open receivables of $629,000. The reserves in November changed just by the addition of $10,000 to the MS4, bringing the total to $2,267,000. The only change to our variance schedule was the updated interest, which is now at $537. No other significant transactions created variances for the month of November. An update on capital projects, as I stated, the final payment was made on the street project for $63,000. The infrastructure committee approved application number 2 for the pump station in the amount of $37,000. That is pending council's approval next week. That was not an amount that we anticipated for the current year. We did not anticipate anything more until the pumps were delivered. So the vendor has agreed to wait to the beginning of January for that payment.
For the $37,000,
Mm-hmm.
and that is budgeted for next year.
Yes.
Okay.
On the garage, in October, we had advanced $262,000, which equaled the soft costs that had been incurred to date through the end of September. I'm requesting an additional advance to cover expenses that have either been paid since that time or anticipated to be paid in the next 2 weeks. There are 2 payment applications from A.H. Moyer, one for plumbing, one for HVAC for their initial insurance and bonding costs. The infrastructure committee approved each of those, and that is pending council's approval next week. Plumbing for $4,500, HVAC for $4,050. Additional soft costs were incurred with Olson, McCarthy, the administration by Berkey Construction totaling $17,500. We've also paid for builder's risk insurance totaling $6,000. Those costs total $55,000. So I'm asking that an additional advance be made during this calendar year so that we can match the timing of when the expenses were incurred for a total of $55,147.
Okay, and the theory was we're gonna use this, I'm gonna sound like Keith, I don't remember what it's called, the short-term note.
Short-term obligation note, yes.
Because we're paying at 2.95% versus right now receiving, well, we just discussed almost 5.5%. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we touch the line for $55,147.68 for the above mentioned pieces of the borough garage project. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
In addition to the payment on the street app, payment was made for equipment installation on the 2 police vehicles for $11,000, bringing November's capital expenditures to $74,000 and a year-to-date total of $3,327,000. Any questions on expenditures?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you went right past me. Can you start that over again?
The only capital expenditure I reported was the final application on the streets for $63. In addition to that, the equipment for the 2 police cars was installed for $11,000.
And our streets project went over budget by 23,000 or something like that?
No, it was a little more than that because of,
Sorry, I can't remember the number.
let me back up the streets.
Went over by,
Streets went over, yes, by 23, you were correct.
words I haven't said, words I haven't heard very often in my life.
The initial change order was significantly higher, but final quantities reduced that to 23.
All right, Thank you. Any questions on the expenditures? Hearing none, moving on. Oh, we need,
She doesn't need.
no. So expenditures done.
The tax collector reported, real estate tax collections of 18,000, bringing the year-to-date total to 4,603,000, leaving outstanding, bills at the end of November of 112,000, 2.4%. When we net the collections versus what was received after the end of the month and what we received during the current month from the previous month, our gross real estate taxes were 19,000. When penalties and delinquent taxes were added, our net real estate taxes totaled 28,000, bringing our year-to-date net to 4,720,000. With information for 11 months and just December receipts waiting, I anticipate that we will end the year at 25,000 over budget. That's primarily due to the addition of the interim taxes. Local taxes for the month of November totaled 169,000, bringing the year-to-date total to 5,123,000. That is a negative variance compared to the prior year, as well as a negative variance compared to the year-to-date budget. We have the December receipts for everything but the mercantile tax. Those December receipts versus what we had projected is a positive 8,000 at this time. The mercantile will not be received until much later in the month. On the real estate transfer tax, for the month of November, 18,000 was collected, 14,000 was actually posted last night. For December, bringing our year-end total to 528,000, 171 less than budgeted, and 21,000 less than had been projected. So December was really disappointing. The commercial property that we had hoped would settle in the third quarter or fourth quarter did not occur. Michelle, do you have an update on that?
Pending financing resolution.
Pending what?
Financing resolution.
Oh, great, joy.
So it probably won't happen this year.
So that will be something to look forward to.
Even if it does, we're not
That'll be
gonna
our
get the
first,
transfer tax this year.
What's that? That'll be our first
So
bonus to the line item. right?
residential was lackluster and the big commercial properties just did not materialize. For earned income tax for the month of November, 104 was collected. In November and December, 521,000, bringing our year-end total to 3,171,000, 28,000 less than budget, but 46,000 more than I had projected when we were budgeting. Mercantile tax for the month of November totaled 7,000, bringing our year-to-date total to 1,491,000. Fourth quarter has been disappointing so far, so unless there is timing differences in collection and remittance, we may fall short there as well. Finally, with local services tax for the month of November totaled 38,000. In December, we've received 96,000, bringing our year-end total to 563,000, 36,000 less than budget, and 16,000 less than had been projected when we budgeted. So that's all I have for November. Does anyone have any questions on results? I should mention that with November's results, we had a large deficit. December typically has a small surplus, and so I believe that we will end the year very close to where we had projected in the 800,000 to 900,000 deficit range, so that our beginning fund balance should be close to what we had anticipated.
Okay. Questions?
Just make a comment that the earned income tax is 3 million. The real estate tax is about 5 million. That's where the wealthy portions of the borough pay their share. those taxes are.
And that's how the law of Pennsylvania was designed to do it, and we have nothing to do. I'm talking about completely different situation that is in your hands, and you misunderstood my comments, by the way.
I don't think I did.
I am very sure you did.
Okay, anything else, John? Thanks for the pointing it out. Okay, what we got next here, the auditor appointment. So, do I have to read the resolution, Chris?
Just the title.
Is that?
You could read the title.
Okay, so we have resolution 2023-29. We need a motion to approve, table, or deny accepting resolution number 2329 to appoint Irvine and Company as independent auditor. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, move that on to council. The motion is needed, the table approve, deny accepting Irvine and Company's audit fee of $17,850. I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Water rate increase for 2023, and let's make sure that we all understand that this is a pass-through. And for those people who live in Wyomissing Hills, if we didn't pass it through, they'd be affected negatively, even worse than they are today by using Pennsylvania American Water. So I'm gonna make the motion to approve accepting resolution number 2023-30 to setting a new water rate effective January 1st, 2024.
I have a question on that. Who sets the water rate?
Council?
Who does the calculation? The 493, which I think is what you're, is that what we're talking about, the 493 per 100, for 100 cubic feet?
It's computed based on previous rates. I go through and apply the 10% or
Yeah,
whatever
it's
percent is
$4.93.
determined.
493, and what's it this year? 511? I don't know what is this
I
year.
have to look it up. I don't have that.
But your 493 is the rate for 24.
Right.
And then you're the one that calculates that.
I do the math, yes.
Yeah, the math, yeah. Okay. I'd like to know what this year's rate is sometime.
I have the chart. We reviewed that when budgeting. I'll get that chart to you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'll second that motion.
Okay, then we have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2023-31. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Review meeting dates for 2020.
We missed
You
number
missed-
8,
you
the
Oh, I
fee
missed
schedule.
one.
Missed the,
Oh, fee schedule.
Fee schedule. Right. You meant
I missed the fee
2023
schedule.
30, where we're doing 31 now.
Okay. So we're understanding that the water was 2023-30, not 2023-31. Everybody agree with that?
Right.
Sorry. got ahead of
Yeah.
myself. And we have to approve the fee schedule for 2024, resolution number 2023-31. A motion is needed to table, approve or deny accepting resolution 2023-31, establishing the borough rates for 2024. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 2024 meeting dates. Review the 2024 meeting dates. Anybody have a problem with these meeting dates? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve the meeting dates. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Bank signers for a new bank account for the road tax fund. Need a motion so that the borough solicitor can prepare the appropriate resolution to update the bank signers as well as initiate a new bank account for the road tax fund. I'll go ahead and make that motion also.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Michelle, we're at 1804 Ready Boulevard, and as long as this person is allowed to speak at this time, I'm okay with it.
Chris,
We're not breaking protocol.
so the resident owner of 1804 Reading Boulevard asked that I call him during this agenda item so he can explain his position as to why he's requesting a reduction. I didn't see why his comments would not be allowed outside of public comment since it is an agenda item.
It's up to the committee if you want to allow it. see a problem with that.
I'll allow it, I will allow it. John? Good. Make the call.
Review. This stuff
Stormwater management.
Stormwater management.
So this is just beyond that.
Al?
Dr. Karchevsky?
Thanks for calling. Is this Michelle?
Yes, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, so I have you on speaker in the middle of council chambers with the finance committee. I've not presented any information or backstory on what happened. I wanted to let you speak for yourself.
Great, thank you.
Okay, you have their
Thanks
attention.
for calling me. First of all, I just have a couple of minutes between patients. I'll briefly summarize the concern that I had. This was maybe a year ago or two when the plans were initially drawn for our stormwater management. We were supposed to tie into one of my neighbors' system, which was initially assumed to be a municipal drain. So these plans were drawn up by an engineering firm, and then they were reviewed and approved by McCarthy Engineering. As my excavator started digging and trying to tie into the drain, it was discovered that the drain that we were supposed to tie into was in fact a private drain. So at that point, neither our engineering firm or the McCarthy engineer had any idea that this was a private system. So at that point, they went back. They re-reviewed the plans, and they came up with another plan to tie into another drain, which was along the east border of my property, which is indeed a municipal drain. So of course I paid all the fees which were associated with coming up with the plans and reviewing the plans. So when I was presented with another set of fees from McCarthy Engineering, I thought that this was unfair, because as a homeowner, I cannot have no way of knowing whether the initial plans were correct. I have no way to review and assess that, what's private, what's public. So as a compromise, I offered to split the fee with McCarthy Engineering.
So you're asking the borough to pay $276.37 to McCarthy Engineering?
We've already paid it, and then we pass those fees on to the homeowner. So Dr. Karchevsky's also paid the fee. He's requesting he be refunded for 50% of what he's already paid.
My initial concern is right off the bat is setting precedents on any of this stuff. The borough isn't necessarily gaining any money on this piece. It's a pass-through cost. What does anybody else have to think about it?
For what it's worth, do you want me to share
Yeah,
Jim
sure.
Karchevsky's?
What
So-
about the other side?
When I was contacted about this, I was actually originally copied on November 8th on an email conversation between Spencer from McCarthy Engineering, Brad Brawl from OTM, who was Dr. Karchevsky's engineering firm that prepared the stormwater management plan, indicating that the discharge pipe from the rain garden was intended to tie into an inlet located to the rear of the property, which everyone surmised was a borough inlet. However, we have recently found out this is not the case, and that the homeowners to the rear of Dr. Karchevsky installed the system and it is private. So my comment to Jim McCarthy was, would the borough have any way of knowing, just looking at a plan that was approved, whether or not that was a private or a public storm drain? And his comment was, we review what they provide, it is up to their engineer to verify that they can tie into the proposed line as shown. Their engineer then requested a field change and had numerous emails about the change. We then put it at the top of our pile to allow them to wrap up the project. He feels that these are due by the property owner under the municipality's funding code, meaning that the burden is on the property owner's engineer to verify, not the borough engineer, as to whether the line is private or not.
I'm trying to look at our solicitor.
Well, I would say, first of all, it's an unfortunate circumstance. I mean, it's regrettable that both the design engineer and the borough engineer were surprised by what they discovered with the first attempt at the installation. However, I believe that it is important for the borough to pass these costs along in order to avoid these projects becoming subsidized by the government. I mean, we cannot guarantee what's going to happen when a property owner initiates a project, and I do believe it is the responsibility of the property owner to bear the costs of the project initiated by the property owner. So my recommendation would be that the costs be borne by the property owner, as regrettable as that outcome might be.
This sounds eerily familiar with some people signing up for, or having to put in water remediation down on Lowers Lane. I believe they had to connect to it, and they paid about $7,000 to be able to do that. So unfortunately, I have to agree with the solicitor, so I will make a motion to deny recommending the council to approve the invoice amount for engineering fees in the amount, excuse me, to the owner of 1804 Reading Boulevard, and have him pay the entire $552.75.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unfortunately, the ayes have it.
Dr. Karchowski, did you catch all of that?
I did, thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any further questions, you're welcome to follow up with me by email or by phone. Otherwise, out of respect for your time, I was going to disconnect the call.
Great, thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, I know all those people down on Flowers Lane all had to pay a big number to hook up to the,
Yes.
okay. The PW project, RACP match funds.
I'm working with our grant writer and our lobbyist on preparing what's effectively a business plan that the Office of the Budget requires as part of RACP funding. RACP is different than any other grant program. You kind of work backwards. So one of the things that the Office of Budget wants to see is where our match funding is coming from. And I was just made aware within the past week, we can use the appraised value of the property as part of our match fund. So it seems kind of stupid not to spend $2,500 to have an appraisal of the property done, knowing that it's probably gonna come back at least $500,000, and that counts towards our 1.6 million match.
Well, I call that simple math. Okay. So, you have any questions? Makes sense to you? Okay. We need a motion, I believe, to approve, recommending the council to approve the appraisal performed on the public works property at 601 North 4th Street to allow the value of the land to be used towards the funding grant for the RACP program and the reimbursement. I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I would just like to comment, Michelle, I think it has to be made clear to the appraiser exactly what the standard is that RACP is looking for. You know, it's an unusual thing to value the land without any improvements.
Well,
So it's-
they're valuing the improvements too.
They are.
Because the existing building is being renovated, RACP Office of the Budget will accept the value of the land plus the existing building. And Colleen gave me language I've written down in my office specific as to what the appraiser needs to show, which I believe is something to do with the sale value. So not just this is what it's appraised at, but it's above and beyond that.
Okay, I just wanna make sure there's good communication about what the expectations are from rec team, so that the appraiser has the right question to answer.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Old business.
I have an update on the retrieval of a pension payment that was made to a deceased retiree. The son of the deceased actually contacted the borough seeking residual benefits, to which he was informed, no, there are none, but thanks for making the contact and giving us the information.
Now we know who to call.
Which was given to Gerard. They sent a letter to the estate, and the estate has already repaid the payment that we were seeking.
Very nice. That
Thanks for
worked out-
calling.
That worked out very nice. So don't keep your mouth shut, I guess.
That goes back into the pension.
It goes back to the non-uniform pension fund, yes.
All $1,100.
And there was no fee from Gerard for performing that service.
Did they figure out how and why that happened yet?
Well, the gentleman had passed, payment was he passed in August. The September first payment was made. The October first payment was made and the bank rejected it. So the bank had known of the death and the account was frozen
What scares me is Gerard would have kept paying if the bank would have accepted it.
until someone notified us of the death, yes. So upon the rejection of the October payment, they did a search for obituary, found the obituary and notified us. They tried to recall September, but it was too late.
I guess I just don't understand how they would know if someone's receiving pensions from us and lives in
Florida.
Guam.
Well,
And how are we ever gonna know if they pass away? If they
The
don't have any
recipient's
relatives?
bank would be notified upon the
Guess
death,
that'd be the-
and that's what starts the process, yes.
So they're claiming this isn't something unusual, it's just something that happens when you don't know.
When they don't know. Usually we get notification from the family. In this case, the family said that they had passed recently and were seeking those extra benefits.
I think that
Good
when you,
news is my wife would spend it already.
I think when the funeral home does the death certificate, and there's a social security number, and I think there's, it goes out to government, goes to the banks, and I think at that.
There is a
point,
process and the
shut
bank
it
will
down.
freeze the
I'm
account
sure.
and the activity.
Okay, there's nothing else on the agenda. Is there any new business that we need to bring forward that we have to amend the agenda for?
Can't do that anymore.
Oh, that's right, we can't do that.
Only in extreme circumstances.
Okay, then I'll make a recommendation, we get out of here.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, motion passed. Johnny, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you very much. I might be calling.